The first encounter, the colony ship floated above the alien world, its engines glowing softly in the dark sky. For months, the humans had traveled through space, searching for a planet where they could build a new home. Now, they had arrived, a world filled with green forests, glowing rivers, and mountains that stretched high into the sky. The ship landed slowly, its giant legs pressing into the soft ground, and the humans stepped out with care. Their boots sank into the soil, their eyes wide with both fear and wonder. The air was heavy, thicker than Earth's air, but it was breathable. Strange sounds filled the forest, low hums, high whistles, and deep rumbling that shook the ground from time to time. The human explorers moved carefully, holding scanners, their weapons strapped to their sides. They did not know what lived here. They did not know if the creatures were peaceful or deadly. Every step forward was filled with suspense. Among the explorers was a young man named Daniel. He was not the leader, but he was curious, more curious than afraid. Where others looked around with suspicion, Daniel looked with wide eyes, studying every plant and every sound. He wanted to see the unknown, not just fear it. He walked ahead of the group, slowly, carefully, until he reached a glowing river. The water shone with a soft blue light, and fish-like creatures swam inside it, leaving trails like sparks in the dark. Daniel bent down, amazed, but then he froze. Across the river, something was watching him. A shadow moved between the trees, tall and thin, with glowing eyes that shone like lanterns. His heart raced, his hand moved toward his weapon, but then he stopped. The figure stepped out of the shadows. It was an alien. Its body was tall and graceful, with silver skin that shimmered under the glowing river light. Its arms were longer than human arms, its fingers slender, ending in faintly glowing tips. Its face was sharp, its eyes large and bright, like stars. The alien did not move quickly. It only stood, staring at Daniel with calm but alert eyes. The air between them was heavy with silence. Daniel's team was still far behind, unaware of what he had found. He knew that if he shouted, they would rush here with weapons, and the first contact between humans and this alien would end in fear and violence. So Daniel stayed quiet, breathing slowly. The alien tilted its head, studying him with curiosity. For a moment, Daniel felt a strange connection. Both of them were alone. Both of them were uncertain. He slowly lifted his hand, not to grab his weapon, but to show he meant no harm. He opened his palm and raised it in the air. The alien watched, then raised its own long hand, copying his gesture. Their hands stayed lifted, as if separated by the river, but joined by something invisible. Daniel smiled nervously. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small piece of dry food from their rations. He placed it on the ground in front of him, sliding it closer to the river. The alien stepped forward, graceful and silent, and placed a glowing fruit on the other side. It rolled gently across the ground until it stopped at the water's edge. Both of them exchanged gifts without words. The human food sat untouched. The alien fruit glowed softly, but the act was enough. It was not a fight. It was not fear. It was something new, a beginning. Suddenly, a sound broke the moment. One of the human explorers called from behind, "Daniel, where are you?" The alien's eyes widened. Its body tensed. It turned quickly, stepping back into the shadows. Daniel wanted to stop it, to call out, but he stayed quiet. If his team saw the alien now, they would react with panic. The alien vanished into the trees, its silver body melting into the forest light. When the others arrived, Daniel stood by the river, hiding the glowing fruit behind his back. He forced a smile and said, "Nothing here, just strange water." The team believed him, moving on, scanning the area, but Daniel's heart was still racing. He knew the truth. He had just met something extraordinary. Not an enemy, not a monster, but a being that felt alive, curious, and cautious, just like him. As the humans walked away, Daniel slipped the glowing fruit into his pocket. It pulsed softly, like it carried a heartbeat of its own. He looked once more toward the forest. Somewhere in the shadows, the alien was still watching him. Their first meeting had lasted only minutes, but it felt like the beginning of something far greater. Daniel whispered to himself, "Maybe friendship is possible. Maybe this is how it starts." And in the silent forest, the alien whispered in its own language, "Maybe he is different. Maybe he is not like the others." Neither of them knew yet. But that night, the first bridge between two worlds had begun. A silent understanding. The night on the alien world was filled with strange lights. The forests glowed faintly with plants that shimmered in the dark. The rivers carried soft blue light, like glowing ribbons that cut through the land. The humans returned to their ship after their long exploration, tired and nervous, but Daniel could not rest. The memory of the alien at the river stayed in his mind, the glowing eyes, the graceful body, the way it had lifted its hand like him. He felt a pull inside his heart. He wanted to see it again. When the others slept, Daniel slipped quietly out of the ship. He moved carefully, his boots silent on the soil. The night air was cool and filled with the sound of distant creatures. He walked back to the river, the glowing fruit still in his pocket, his hand tightened around it, the soft pulse warming his fingers. On the other side of the river, the alien appeared again. It stepped from the shadows as if it had been waiting. Its silver skin glowed faintly, its large eyes shining like stars. For a moment, both stood still, the river flowing. Between them, neither spoke, but neither was afraid. Daniel slowly took the fruit from his pocket and held it up. The alien tilted its head, then pointed at the ration food Daniel had left before. It held the packet gently, studied it, and then placed it near its lips. Daniel smiled when he saw the alien nibble carefully. The alien's eyes widened in surprise. The taste was strange but not unpleasant. Then it held up its own glowing fruit, offering it to Daniel. Daniel hesitated, then bit into it. Sweet liquid filled his mouth, glowing faintly on his lips. He coughed, laughing, wiping the light from his chin. The alien tilted its head again, and for the first time, Daniel thought he saw it smile. They had no words, but still they spoke. Daniel bent down and drew in the dirt with a stick, a circle, a line, then another circle. He pointed to the first and said, Earth. He pointed to the second and said, Me. The alien crouched down to its long fingers glowing at the tips. It drew its own shape, a symbol that looked like a star with flowing lines. It pointed to itself. Daniel touched his chest. Then the alien touched its chest. They understood. The silent game continued. Daniel drew a picture of the ship, a tall shape with fire beneath it. The alien studied it carefully, then nodded. It drew something else, a tall crystal glowing with lines of energy. It pointed toward the mountains in the distance. Daniel followed the direction with his eyes, realizing the alien had shown him its home. Two worlds, two lives, meeting by a river in the night. Hours passed like minutes. They shared more food, more drawings, more gestures. Daniel tried to mimic alien sounds, failing but laughing. The alien tried to copy his words, the sounds awkward but full of effort. They both laughed, and in that laughter, a bridge of trust grew stronger. But the night was not empty. In the trees, other eyes were watching. The alien suddenly tensed, its head snapping to the side. Daniel froze, scanning the shadows. A low growl echoed through the forest, deep and heavy. Something moved, something larger than both of them. The alien raised its glowing hands, ready to protect. Daniel gripped his small weapon, heart pounding. But after a moment, the sound faded. The creature moved away. The alien relaxed, lowering its hands. Daniel exhaled, still shaking. The alien looked at him with calm eyes, then touched its chest again. Daniel copied the motion. In silence, they promised each other something unspoken, that if danger came, they would stand together. The night ended, and Daniel knew he had to return before his team discovered his absence. He pointed back to the ship. The alien nodded slowly, then stepped back into the trees. Daniel hesitated, wanting to stay longer, but forced himself to leave. When he reached the ship, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The glowing fruit's taste still lingered on his tongue. He whispered to himself, "We don't need words to be friends." And somewhere in the forest, the alien whispered in its own tongue, "The bridge is small, but it is strong." The great danger. The days on the alien world grew heavier. The humans worked faster, building shelters and defenses, while their eyes always watched the forests. The aliens too kept their distance, their glowing shapes sometimes seen at night, moving between the trees. The bond of trust was thin, and suspicion was thick. But in the middle of this tension, something even greater was rising. The ground began to tremble. Small shakes at first, barely noticed. Machines rattled, glasses fell inside the human camp, and trees cracked in the forests. Daniel felt it under his boots one morning, a deep vibration that made his heart race. He looked toward the mountains, where smoke now drifted slowly into the sky. The alien had warned him in drawings, showing the earth cracking, fire rising, storms tearing the land. Daniel had thought it was a story, a myth, but now he understood it was real. That night, Daniel slipped out again, his fear greater than the guards watching him. At the glowing river, the alien was waiting, its eyes dark with worry. It drew symbols in the dirt, sharp and fast mountains, fire, storms, destruction. Daniel nodded quickly. Yes, I felt it, too, he whispered. The alien pointed toward the humans' camp, then toward its own mountains. It shook its head, showing both in danger. This was not about humans or aliens. This was about survival. The next day, the tremors grew stronger. The ground cracked near the human camp, glowing lights seeping from beneath. Rivers boiled in some places, and strange storms swirled above the forests. Fear spread through the camp like fire. The commander ordered weapons ready, shouting that the aliens must be causing it. They want us gone, he cried. But Daniel stood firm, shaking his head. No, this is the planet, not them. We are all in danger. Nobody listened. Their fear was too great. In the alien city, by the mountains, the same fear grew. The glowing crystals shook and cracked, their light flickering. The elders whispered that the humans had brought disaster, that their machines had broken the balance of the land, and so, both sides blamed each other. Even as the ground rumbled louder, even as the skies darkened, Daniel met the alien again by the river. This time their meeting was desperate, their gestures frantic. Daniel drew humans and aliens together, holding the earth. He pressed his chest, pleading, together, he said. The alien's glowing fingers trembled. Then, it nodded slowly. It drew the same image but with fire above, showing the danger that would come if they failed. Their eyes met. A silent agreement formed. They would try, even if no one believed them. The great danger arrived faster than anyone expected. One evening, the mountains erupted, fire spilling into the sky. Ash rained down on the forests. Storms howled. The rivers boiled with steam. The ground split open, swallowing machines and trees. Humans screamed. Aliens cried out. Panic consumed both sides. Blame turned to chaos. Weapons raised. Threats shouted. War was seconds away. But louder than war was the roar of the earth itself. Daniel rushed to the commander, his face covered in ash, his voice desperate. Listen to me, he cried. This is not them. This is the planet. If we fight now, we all die. The commander glared at him, torn between fear and reason. At the same moment, in the alien city, the silver-skinned friend spoke to its elders. It pointed at the fire, at the storm, and at the humans in the distance. It cried out in its language, its voice shaking with urgency. The elders hesitated, their eyes uncertain. And so, both leaders faced a choice: fight the other, or face the disaster together. For a moment, the world itself seemed to hold its breath. The ground shook harder, the fire brighter, the storms louder, and in the middle of it all, by the glowing river, Daniel and the alien stood side by side, their hands lifted, their eyes fierce. We must build together, Daniel whispered. The alien echoed the same words in its tongue. The humans and aliens stared at them, two figures, once strangers, now united, and for the first time, they saw not enemies, not monsters, but survivors on the same breaking world. The great danger had arrived, and only unity could save them now. Building the bridge, the fire from the mountains poured into the sky, turning it red and black. The ground split with deep cracks, glowing light spilling from beneath the earth. Storms swirled over the forests, tearing trees from the soil. It was a world breaking apart. Humans and aliens both stood in fear, their weapons still raised, but their eyes wide with terror. Daniel stepped forward, ash covering his face, his voice shaking but strong. If we fight, we die, he shouted. If we work together, maybe we live. The alien beside him, its silver skin glowing even in the smoke, lifted its long arms. It repeated the same words in its own tongue, its voice clear and firm. For a moment, silence stretched across the river between the two groups. Then the commander of the humans lowered his weapon. The elders of the aliens stepped forward, their glowing crystals trembling in their hands. No one trusted yet, but the choice was clear: together or nothing. The first step was small. Humans brought their machines, large and heavy, to hold the cracking ground. Aliens brought their crystals, glowing with power, to steady the rivers and calm the storms. Side by side, they worked. At first, the humans doubted the alien tools, and the aliens feared the human machines. But slowly, they began to see strength in each other. A machine fell into a crack, and alien hands pulled humans to safety. A crystal flickered weakly, and human engineers adjusted their devices to amplify its glow. Step by step, trust was built. Daniel and the alien friend guided them. They showed both sides the simple truth: that survival needed both strength and wisdom, that no single world could stand alone. Daniel worked through the night, his hands blistered, his body tired, but every time he looked up, he saw the alien beside him, never stopping, never giving in. That sight gave him hope. The bridge began as an idea. Daniel drew it in the dirt once more. Two lands connected. The alien added glowing lines of power flowing across it. The elders and the commander watched, and for the first time, they nodded together. Yes, they both agreed. We build. The humans brought metal and steel, strong enough to carry weight. The aliens placed crystals inside, glowing with energy that kept the ground stable. Together, they began to build a true bridge across the glowing river, not only of stone and light, but of trust and survival. The work was not easy. Storms crashed overhead. Fire still rumbled from the mountains. The ground shook without warning. Sometimes humans shouted in anger when aliens made mistakes. Sometimes aliens hissed in frustration when humans did not understand their ways. But every time, Daniel and the alien stood between them. They calmed the voices. They reminded both sides of the danger. They reminded them that the world itself was breaking, and only together could they survive. One night, when the storms were loudest, the bridge almost collapsed. A giant crack split the earth. Pulling the structure down, humans grabbed ropes, aliens lifted crystals. Daniel shouted orders, his throat raw. The alien sang in its strange language, the crystals pulsing with its voice, and somehow, against the chaos, the bridge held. That night, no one spoke of enemies. They only spoke of survival. As the days passed, the bridge grew longer, wider, stronger. It stretched across the glowing river, connecting the human camp to the alien city. When the last stone was placed, the last crystal lit, the bridge shone like a star. Humans and aliens stood together, staring at it with awe. It was not just a path of metal and light. It was proof that two worlds could stand as one. Daniel stood on the middle of the bridge, the alien beside him. They looked at each other. Then, at the people on both sides, he whispered softly, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." The alien nodded, repeating the same in its tongue. Around them, the storms began to calm. The ground steadied, the sky cleared slowly. It was as if the world itself approved of the bond that had been created. The commander stepped forward, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "You risked everything," he said quietly, "but you showed us the truth." An elder of the aliens touched the alien's arm, its glowing eyes soft. "You carried hope when we carried fear," it said. Daniel and the alien both stayed silent, their hearts too full for words. The bridge was built, but more than that, trust was built. A fragile trust, yes, but one strong enough to hold against storms and fire. For the first time, humans and aliens looked at each other not as threats, but as allies, and in that moment, they all knew. Friendship had become the bridge between their worlds. The bridge between worlds. The bridge stood tall above the glowing river, shining with both steel and crystal. It connected the human camp on one side and the alien city on the other. For the first time, the two worlds were not divided by fear, but joined by hope. Humans and aliens walked across it, their steps slow at first, cautious, but soon, laughter and voices filled the air as they began to meet in the middle. Daniel stood at the center with his alien friend. He looked at the people coming together, his chest swelling with pride. The alien's glowing eyes softened, its long fingers brushing the edge of the bridge, as if it was alive. They had built something more than stone and light. They had built trust. The commander of the humans crossed first, his boots heavy on the crystal floor. He carried no weapon, only respect. The alien elders met him in the center, their glowing crystals raised in greeting. The air was thick with silence. Then slowly, the commander bowed, and the elders bowed back. Gasps rose from both sides, but then cheers followed. The first sign of peace was real. Days passed, and the bridge became alive with movement. Humans carried tools and machines across. Aliens carried crystals and knowledge in return. Together, they rebuilt what the fire and storms had broken. The forests grew calmer, the rivers steadier, the sky clearer. It was as if the planet itself breathed easier when the two species worked side by side. Daniel and his alien friend became symbols of this change. Children from both sides gathered around them, eager to learn. The alien taught them how to use crystals to light the dark. Daniel showed them how machines could build shelters and protect lives. The children laughed, their voices echoing across the bridge. No fear, only wonder. But peace was not simple. Some humans still whispered that the aliens could not be trusted. Some aliens still doubted the humans' hearts. Old wounds and fears did not vanish in a single day, yet every time doubt rose, the bridge stood shining as proof, a reminder that two strangers had chosen trust over fear, and that choice had saved them all. One evening, Daniel and his alien friends stood again at the center of the bridge. The sky was painted with stars, and the glowing river shimmered below. Daniel spoke softly. "When I first saw you, I was afraid." The alien tilted its head and whispered in its musical tongue, "When I first saw you, I thought you were my enemy." They both smiled, the silence between them full of meaning. Then Daniel said, "But we learned, we tried, and now look." The alien pointed at the people walking across the bridge. "Humans and aliens together," it whispered. "The bridge is not stone. The bridge is us." The commander and the elders soon declared a pact. No longer would humans and aliens see each other as strangers. They would share knowledge, trade, and protect the world together. It was not just peace. It was the birth of a new alliance, and it began with a single meeting by a glowing river. Years later, the bridge still stood strong. It became a place of stories, a place where people came to remember. Children would ask, "How did this begin?" And elders would answer, "It began with a human and an alien who chose friendship instead of fear." Legends grew, songs were sung, and the bridge was called the Bridge of Two Worlds. Daniel and his alien friend grew older, but their bond never faded. They were honored as heroes, not because they fought battles, but because they stopped one before it began, because they proved that friendship was stronger than fear, because they showed that even in the vast darkness of space, hope could shine. On the final night of the story, Daniel stood once more on the bridge, his alien friend beside him, the glowing river flowing endlessly below. He whispered softly, "This bridge will stand even after us." The alien nodded, its glowing eyes reflecting the stars. Together, they looked at the people crossing back and forth, humans and aliens, no longer strangers, no longer enemies, only neighbors, friends, and allies. And so the tale ended where it began, by the river. But now, the river no longer divided, it connected, for their friendship had truly become the bridge between two worlds.